Linguistics versus English. Why compare both? Many students enter linguistics because they enjoyed English language back in JHS, SHS, or whatsoever. They enjoyed literature, they enjoyed, writing and composition. Of course, who doesn't enjoy English? I mean, that is one of the courses or subjects that people used to really pass until recent times. So, who wouldn't love to read something English related? Almost everyone would love to do that. But for some reason, some students also take a wild guess and choose linguistics because they believe it is the same as English language, the English language that they've been familiar with over the years. Most importantly, what you should know is the two degrees are different. The degree in English and the degree in linguistics are totally different. And the opportunities that exist for both of them are totally different. So you have to make a very guided decision when you are choosing linguistics over English or English over linguistics. Now, what English focuses on is literature, poetry, drama, prose, whatsoever, blah, 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 blah. I think I said this in the previous video. Essay writing and composition, reading comprehension and analysis, um, communication skills, and whatsoever. I mentioned them in the previous video. That is primarily what English language studies is about. So the primary focus is on usage and the usage and interpretation of English language. The usage and interpretation of the English language. But when we look at linguistics, as explained early on, linguistics looks at how language is structured. At this point, when I say language, you know what I'm talking about. It looks at how sounds, words, sentences are organized. It looks at how meaning is formed and interpreted. Okay, linguistics looks at how languages change and vary, both synchronically and diachronically. So in linguistics, the focus is on explaining how language works, not on comprehension, not on composition, not on poetry, not on prose, whatsoever. It is on how these partners work. The primary thing about linguistics. Linguistics is not language specific. Linguistics is not for English. It is not for French. It's not for Chinese. It's not for Akan. It's not for Ewe. It's not for Kusal. Linguistics is not language specific. That is why in the very first video, I explained that when we say language, we are talking about the means of human communication. And I gave you two forms that are one, verbal communication, and two, non-verbal communication, sign language and speech. In fact, in the next video, we are going to look at what language really is, the origin of language, how language came up about, or how we believe language came up about. So there's a very slim overlap, right? They both look at languages, even though one is strictly on a particular language. They are both reading programs, there are analysis, there's communication involved and whatsoever, but we approach all these things differently, totally differently. Now, for the career opportunities that exist in linguistics, you can work in areas such as, for speech and communication, there is a speech language therapy, You could be a speech pathologist with clinical training, of course. Of course, you can read speech pathology and be a speech pathologist. Education and teaching, lecturing, whatsoever, that's the common thing we all know. At least in Ghana, we believe all linguistics graduates are teachers. There's also forensic and legal careers. So there is the forensic analyst for the police department, for the military, the army, whatsoever. There's the legal and courtroom language consulting or consultant. You can be a consultant for some of the court rooms and all those things. Threat and authorship analysis. Through linguistics, you can analyze threats from a mile away. There's also research and documentation. You can be a full-on researcher. Media and policy spaces, you can also be there. There's also brain, language, and cognitive sciences, where you can be a neurologist with clinical training, of course. So there's an aspect of linguistics that is neurolinguistics that looks at language and the brain, how language works from the brain, or language and the brain work, and blah 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 blah. There's also the psycholinguistics, which is also, of course, the brain related. So psychology, you can be a psychologist, medical in the medical practicing field. You can look at all those things. There is also the child language studies, language acquisition, all those things. So speech pathology, but basically something on that. There's cognitive sciences, where you can do something cognitively related. In technology or AI, there is the NLP, that's the natural language processing. There is a speech technology, AI assistants, voice assistants, language data annotations, model training, and so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. Think about any field that you want to have your career, or you want to pursue your career in, and there is somewhere that linguistics would actually push you in. And for the rest of the academic thing, we can look at research and teaching with postgraduate study, lexicography, creation of dictionaries, and writing of all those things. Even so, you can do it in your native language. If there is no dictionary that exists in your native language, you can be a lexicographer and produce one of those things. Language documentation and preservation. Look at languages that are going extinct, languages that are dying. You can document them to prevent them from dying. There's consulting, policy writing, media language analysis, editorial support, and blah 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 blah. So there are a lot of things that you can actually do with linguistics, not just teaching. That being said, my name is Dikalu. I'll catch you in the next one. We're going to look at the origin of language, and that is going to be the very first topic we are going to treat in Intro to Linguistics. How did language come up about? Where do we think language came from? Or where do we think language comes from? Stick and stay with me as we explore these things. My name is Dikalu once again. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.